Hello and welcome to my diary. I'm Tatami, and here we talk about whatever I want to. Today, we are going to be discussing something that is more on my nerdier side and more spiritual side. We're going to be discussing the history of ugly jugs, face jugs, basically their history in the Black community, their modern use, their origins in Africa. And we are also going to, by extension, just talk about these travel ancestor altars that I've made, which were made because I noticed a lot of people, one, needed more discreet ways to have their altars, and two, needed to have what am I trying to say? Oh, they wanted to, it to be something they could travel with. They wanted to be able to bring their spirituality with them around more, the same way people bring around their Bible or people bring around, a prayer book of some sort. So I made these little lotus bags. First off, I made this type of bag when I was a little girl. It's so easy to make. You'll find dozens of petal drawstring tutorials here on YouTube because it seems to be something lots of cultures make. But at any rate, inside, okay, first I've made it so the inside is this gorgeous butterfly brocade. Oh, so beautiful, so sacred. So inside, the things I've chosen that I thought were the most important for somebody who is of African ancestry, focusing on honoring their ancestors in nature, and connecting in that way. What are the things they need? So I put in one face jug, one ugly jug, a bell. I put a little red ribbon on it. Use that noise, or you can clap, honey, right? We all have music at all times. I have a homemade cologne. And I have a little bag here with 9 pennies for divination and a cinnamon stick for burning, right? Black Americans really don't have much bloodline connection to sage unless you legitimately have a bloodline connection to Native Americans. But we do have bloodline connection to things like cinnamon, tobacco, lemongrass. If you're Afro-Latino, Palo Santo is something that you would have a bloodline connection to, likely, right? If you've been around these parts. So, and the final thing that I have for the travel altar is I'm making some prayer cards. Let's see if we can open my journal to the right pages. So just things like this, the small prayer at the bottom. We've got the crossroads. We've got a priestess. That's something else. We've got the moon cycles, things like that. Nature-based, spirit-based, ancestor-based prayer cards. And that's all I have in there. I think that is, that's an altar. That's an altar. You can put, water, earth, fire, tea light candles, right? You can add your own things to it, but overall it's just a cute bag. You can put it in. Oh, and the best part about these bags is when you open them up, you can lay them flat. You can open these all the way up if you make, your string long enough, and then you'll have a whole, little altar space, and you can turn it either way you'd like. It's so cute. And when you open it the other way, it's like a little cross. You can't really see that. Trust me, it's like the crossroads, honey. It's so cute. At any rate, let's get into our history lesson. We're already 4 minutes deep. Face jugs, ugly jugs. We'll start there. We all know that our ancestors had so many things that they were not allowed to do. We have a lot of things now where it's like culturally we're not able to do them. People culturally keep us out of situations, but legally it's like illegal to deny us based on our race. But culturally people do it and they don't really realize that they're doing it, that they're discriminating, that they're vetoing you because of prior stereotypes that they have internalized. So we don't often realize just the logistics of living your everyday life with literal laws keeping you from doing basic things that we all just take for granted. We don't, think about the fact of like, oh yeah, the bathrooms were separated, but like, what is that like when you're trying to hold your bladder during a super long drive? You know what I'm saying? And then you can't find a place that will let you go pee. You know what I mean? Then there's like, being afraid of being caught somewhere in the South when your car runs out of gas. So logistically speaking, you would have to go get several gallons to keep in the back of your trunk to make sure that you always had enough gas. You couldn't go to the hotel. So that's where the Black church, that's why it was so big back then, was because that was the way people were able to make connections with each other so they could travel. So they could just do basic things like go from one place to another and have a decent place to sleep at night. Because you couldn't sleep in the car, because you couldn't sleep here, because you couldn't sleep there. So it's difficult, to remember those logistics. Even when you see the separation, it can be hard to think of the intricacies of daily life dealing with that type of bullshit that's stopping you from just doing a basic thing like taking a piss. One of those things, way before Jim Crow, back when our ancestors were enslaved here, chattel slavery, we were not allowed to bury our dead. We were not allowed to bury them in the cemetery. We were not allowed to use, even though they were trying to make us Christian, we weren't really allowed to bury our people like Christians. And so this isn't something we really just took. We didn't just be like, okay, well, I guess we'll just throw Nana in the pile. Fuck it, can't bury her. Just throw her in the pile of people. No. Black people are a very spiritual people, very spiritual people. No matter what, no matter where we've been, no matter what point of history you go across, it's pretty rare to find Black atheists, but it happens, and power to you. Believe what you need to believe. Follow what your intuition is telling you always. But the fact remains is that due to being still cut off from this, there had to be another way, because we were not going to not honor our dead. They say that most Black Americans, and this has been pretty much verified, most Black Americans come from West Africa and the Congo. The West Africa and the Congo are places that notoriously were the last to fall to Christianity. People often, cite like, oh, Christianity is African, Ethiopians, are a huge part of Christian culture. Jesus was Black, insert what have you. But the fact remains that Black Americans did not go for the Christian shit until the bitter fucking end. The Congo did not let go of their Nkisi dolls until the bitter fucking end. Literally walking through the Congo, finding priests and priestesses and giving them the option, either you give up your Nkisi dolls or you can get sold. The majority, because they were the spiritual practitioners and leaders, refused to give up their religion for Christianity and thusly were sold. And with this, they took their knowledge. So in fact, the same way we ended up getting so many skilled people over here in America because they were asking for, iron workers, potters, people with skilled labor. And so those people were often targeted. We got the best of the priests and priestesses here too. Not just here in America, in Haiti, in South America, all through South America, all through the islands, all around there too, the Caribbean, that's where a lot of these people got sent. And with them, they took their knowledge. Same with any type of master person at their craft, right? So when this issue arose, it was quickly filled. When the issue arose of people not knowing, how we should honor the dead, it was filled in a way with some of the knowledge that was brought. Yes, honey. We got literature. It was filled with some of the knowledge that was brought from our priests and priestesses in Africa. Here we have two Nkisi dolls, and I pronounce it Nkisi, Nkis, or ISI, but here they spell it Minkisi, Minkisi. I've seen it spelled several other ways as well. But they have the same concept no matter the pronunciation or the translation that you see written, should I say. In essence, in the Congo, they had an entire body, right? You can see this. And this one, let's move you, beloved. You can see the belly button. They had the whole body. And what happened is the belly button would be what was filled with herbs, curios, types, items of spiritual nature that have been blessed, plants, beads, some type of, small items that had been made expressly for this purpose, dried or carved expressly for this purpose. And then the belly button would be covered up to keep all of those things in there. And if you know about mojo bags, this kind of is starting to sound like the same concept, right? So, and this one as well, behind the mirror also signifies something. So what we have here, this one is obviously to take something down. Many people, obviously, due to the reputation that African traditional religions have, due to anti-Blackness, racism, etc., would see something like this and be like, oh, they're cursing somebody, they're hurting somebody, blah, blah, blah. Honey, don't curse me, I won't curse you. Let's just say that. That's just not how these things roll. This was actually, with all of these nails, was to kill a disease that somebody had within them. And this other one was... I'm believed to be an ancestor or some sort of fetish in that nature. So what we have here is basically the honoring of life and the honoring of the community and the helping people in the community. And when we came here, we, as it were, ditched the rest of the body because the head, it's a jug, it can be filled. So many people, when they would see these jugs, they thought they were just for water. You can see people thinking like, oh, they went through all the work of the artistry just to bring people water in the fields, which maybe there was like an old jug where somebody saw that happen, before. I'm not sure. I can't say. I wasn't there. But the majority of these jugs were used for spiritual purposes. One, for the dead. The ugliness of the jugs was to scare the spirits who might harm the soul of your loved one as they ascended to the spirit realm, to heaven, to where the spirits go, to the ancestors. And of course, who could blame them for obviously sensing that this land had so much turmoil and, bullshit going on, frankly, that you would need to protect somebody in the afterlife to help them get to the other ancestors. And this jug would be filled with, say, their favorite things, their brush, some of their, hair might be in that, their favorite clothes, a few things like that. And thusly, it would be buried and in certain spots. Today, white people, go treasure hunting, literally, on the banks of rivers and wherever they think Black people might have buried these jugs, and they sell them for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is why, we typically aren't able to get our hands on our own ancestors' face jugs. If you go online right now, beloved, there are auctions, and these jugs are going for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I just want you to think, who Black do you know who's able to invest in this? What Black museum? What anything? It just keeps our culture out of our hands. And I just wish someday we'll be able to fund our own archaeological, digs to get our own stuff out of this earth, preserve it, and keep it for ourselves, because they're just selling it like it's Pokemon cards. Yeah, it's not in any way respectful. It's just, and in fact, this book right here is the collection of a white man, Han Correa, 1916 to 1928, his collection from that time period. And this is the art in here that is in some man's collection, collecting dust, a lot of it. At any rate, let's continue the history lesson. Face jugs are not only used to honor the dead, they're also used for purposes around your own house. In fact, any purpose you could think of around your own house, any purpose you could think of for, say, a sickness, for a relationship, for your altar, for, and this is something our ancestors definitely did. They would, and keep in mind, this is a mini face jug. They were building face jugs. These are big ceramic pottery things. And they would put them on the back or the front porch, again with the face, to scare away spirits that may do harm trying to come up to the home. And thusly your home could be a safe haven and keep away this energy that often threatened to just come at you. Because let's be real, Christianity has a lot of a lot of Christians use Christianity to attack, belittle, go after somebody. And that's something very much that was happening to our ancestors. People would obsess about us. All right, so my kids just had me, they wanted to watch another movie. They wanted to watch Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but I was like, it's bedtime. How many movies do you think you're supposed to be watching at night? 2, 3, 4, what? I don't know. At any rate, crying ensued and I had to put them down. So I don't remember exactly where I was. I think I was talking about other uses for them besides burial. I talked about on the front or the back porch, it will scare away the spirits, or it will scare away people who realize they shouldn't be there. That's really what that's about. Protect your home, protect yourself, because people out here doing too much, habitual line steppers out here. And so those are the bigger face jugs. Why I started making them in these little mini size and this small size. I have some other ones right here. And these ones are made out of polymer, but typically I don't work with polymer clay. I work with terracotta because I just like it. It's just a red clay of the earth and it air dries. And I just like it. I just like it. This was my first time working with polymer for face jugs, and they're cute. They're cute, but I still prefer terracotta at any rate. I make them smaller so that they, fit on the altars. I make them smaller so that they can, I make them like a handful size is what I usually make them as. But I made them even tinier so that they could fit in a little travel altar. And you can use these to put offerings in. That can be a food offering. Dried food offerings are fine. Obviously you can cook your ancestors a whole plate, a whole meal, go out there and leave them a plate for a picnic, that type of thing. But dry offerings are also a thing. You can also fill this with, incense or some type of something that smells good. You can pour your water in there for while your altar is working and moving, have that conduit of the energy, of the spiritual energy. You could just stick $1 bill. I have a face jug that's a little bigger than these, but I have one that I use just purely to stick money in, honor the ancestors. Sometimes it's to ask for something. I'll put in some money. Sometimes it's to thank you, so sometimes it's just because. So sometimes it's because I need something, and sometimes it's a thank you for something that's come into my life, and I'll put the money in there in that way. So, yes, there we have it. That's what I really would use these for usually. I think you could probably, you could put a stick of candle in it. If you make your own, you can put a hole in it and make it into an oil lamp. But these ones are just so small, and I wasn't sure about I usually make the oil lamps out of terracotta, like I said. So I wasn't sure about a polymer clay when doing it, and especially such a tiny little guy. So that is, and it can also just be something, you anoint with a blessing oil. What other things do I have that I can anoint? I have another oil here that I love. I got that one from Big Liz Conjure. This one I got from Cognac and Conjure. Both of those are black owned. And this, I've got some silver. I use that one. It's just like, do I have anything? Silver is a healer, honey. Long before they were selling colloidal silver in bottles, black folks were wearing, back in the day, dimes were made out of silver, and we would punch a hole and put them on our wrists. And I'll talk to you about mercury dimes another time, but my point is you can find doctors' notes at the time mockingly, and they believe that silver heals this or that. And now you can buy colloidal silver by the bottle, and it's just normal. It's just a bestseller on Amazon. But back in the day, we were the idiots. We were the idiots for our conjure people prescribing that. And the joke is on us because we couldn't afford fucking medical care, so we were doing natural remedies that worked. But the joke's on us, I guess. The joke's, what's the joke? That we were poor? I don't know. Don't get me worked up. What's another thing we got here? Oh, and of course, why am I acting like this isn't something? You can use your cologne and anoint. You know what I'm saying? You could have Florida water in one of these. These things are pretty cheap, and they come in a bottle. This right here, like I said, I've been making my own cologne and trying my hand at that. And I also have, this one is from queenafua.com. Remember, I am one of her Sacred Woman practitioners. I went through that training a few years ago. Gosh, has it been like 5 years already? 4 years? 4 years. It's been a while. But my point is that, there are ways to make this accessible. We are not Wiccans, but, we're still put in the pagan sphere, but we're not the same as a lot of these other cultures. So a lot of these other things don't really fit into what we're doing, what we do. You could also put earth in there. In fact, one of the things you could do with these that I think is awesome is that you can use these exactly as you would a mojo bag or a Nkisi doll. You put your herbs and stuff in there, close the top, use some of your own clay or, what have you, close the top. You can spray seal it with some of this shiny stuff. What do I use? I use Krylon triple thick crystal clear glaze, but you could use whatever you wanted, whatever you have, and just glaze the top if you want to keep it somewhere nice. I've buried mine before. I've filled it with different things for certain things, closed the top and buried it, or released it into the river. Those ones I don't glaze because I would like them to break down naturally in the earth. But yeah, I mean, there's so many options, right, for us to continue to use the face jug in the modern day, even though at this time, not only do we have the opportunity to bury our people the way everybody else does, but that's the law. You can't really just be burying your people anywhere anymore like that unless you have land, you know what I'm saying, which most of us don't. So, I do think that it's such a beautiful tradition that shouldn't be left to, be released to the world, not taken as seriously or forgotten or like relegated to certain things, because it was used for so many different things throughout our history that, I just think it's something that we should continue to use on our altars and in our lives, and to connect with our ancestors, especially people who are reconnecting with African traditional religion, indigenous religions, tribal religions, and you're a Black American. This is your birthright. This is something that because we all amalgamated and became the Black community, the African American community here, this is something that was injected into our culture, into our mainstream. And so it's very much your birthright if you have, that ancestry to honor, and you are honoring your ancestors. You have Black ancestors that you can honor like that, because this is a religion of calling on your ancestors, working with those spirits, working with the nature, which is why I usually use the terracotta, but I can easily put earth inside of this, and I have other things in here, such as the pennies, This is metal. What else? The cologne is infused with many herbs, flowers, that sort, and of course the cinnamon. There's a lot of earth items in the altar as it is, but you know, you can always add more, always add what you want. So anyways, I hope this inspires you to make your own travel ancestor altar if you want to take your spirituality with you, or you need to hide it from people in your life, roommates, housemates, etc. Or you just want a discreet, you know, way to have this in your life and around you. This is what I suggest. A lot of people use like little tins, like Wiccans, but you can't fit a face jug in a tin. You can't fit a picture. You can't fit just prayer cards if that's what you're, you know, willing to do. If you want to make something really small, just use the Altoid box and very small items. But I wanted a bell in there and I wanted a face jug. So I'm going to put these on ritualready.com and just have them available for people who need them, who need that opportunity to connect with their ancestors and they aren't sure what other ways to do it. I haven't seen other people make a traveling ancestor altar, so I thought this was something that I could fill in the community to help out. That's something that we might need. All right, so thank you so much for listening to my history lesson about face jugs and, you know, conjure in general. And may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads. And I will see you next video.